So I would challenge you to ask yourself, what's the big secret I'm keeping? Or what is the thing that I went through that I've never done anything with? And then ask God, what would you have me do? Humbly ask God for direction and guidance so that all that pain isn't wasted. From New Life Ministries, this is Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn. I'm Stephen Arterburn. And Going Deeper is all about taking the tough issues, the hard issues of life, looking a little bit deeper inside so that we can gain some insight into our lives. Hi, Steve Arterburn here, and thank you for joining me for Going Deeper. We've been going deeper into this thing that Dave Stoop and I called spiritual renewal years ago. Now, I want to remind you, you could still get the Spiritual Renewal Bible, and that Bible was Bible of the Year. It is such a great tool to study and to literally go deeper. So I'm hoping you might pick up a copy of that. But we created the series, and I've been through with you this first key of seeking out God and surrendering to God, and then secondly, the key of acceptance. So we surrender, and then we see the reality of our lives and we accept it. Then confession, we say the things that are true. We open up to another person, and then we own it. Responsibility is number 4, and then 5, we literally let it go. It's forgiveness, and in that forgiveness, we're kind of just really giving grace and mercy to somebody else that God has given to us. And in the process, I don't know what it does for the other person, but it frees us from being locked in. And then we come to this 6th key, and it's called the key of transformation. And I'm literally going to reverse it. I'm literally going to take what Satan intended for evil, and I'm going to transform that into something really good. Now here's the verse. All praise to the God and Father, our Lord Jesus Christ. He is the source of every mercy and the God who comforts us. He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When others are troubled, we will still be able to give them the same comfort that God has given to us. Now that's 2 Corinthians 1:3-4. Okay, so look at that. We're praising God for what He does, and He's the source of every mercy and the God who comforts us. And it says He does this comfort, not just for us to have comfort, but He's hoping, I think that's the plan, so that when others are troubled, the way we've been troubled, we can then comfort them. So I got an email today. It was from a woman who listened to a message that I gave at Saddleback. I'm sorry, not Saddleback. Well, yeah, it was Saddleback, but I also gave it at Northview, and northviewchurch.us. And in this message, I talked about pressuring a young woman to have an abortion. She watched the message, and she wrote me and told me this story. When she was young, she's about in her 50s now, but when she was younger, she was engaged and she got pregnant. The guy was so set on looking good and knew his parents would be horrified, he pressured her to have an abortion, just the way I had pressured someone else. Well, that didn't change anything. And before they got married, they got pregnant again. And he pressured her again. And, when you go through that twice, all sorts of guilt and shame come in. And of course, then they broke up and never married. So she says she went on, had a family. It's always been an issue. But she saw this message, and she said, it just released me from so much shame. Okay, so I did the most horrific thing. I confessed it, I repented, and now I share it. And what Satan meant for evil, now I'm open, and it impacts a woman. And she feels released from the shame so that she can now serve God. Well, the other guy, the guy she was involved with, has become a famous movie star. And I don't know who that is. But she crossed out his name. But she sent me the text to him and from him. She said, I hadn't talked with him in years. I didn't know how to get in touch with him. But she said, I see him in the headlines all the time. So she said she got in touch with his manager. And sure enough, when he saw her name, he was willing to connect with her. And so then she said to him, after they said all this stuff, never seen each other in a long time, and hope you're doing well, and they found out they were. She said, I saw this message, and I've never really gotten over what we did, and I wondered if you had, and I wanted you to see it. And so she said, and I saw in the text there, he watched that message, and he said he was so grateful that it was so healing. So here is an example of how I got over something, God comforted me through it, and then now somebody else benefited from it. So I think that's what God wants us to do. But what do? In our pride, we cover up, we try to look good, and you have to wonder how many ministries, missions never get accomplished because we're not willing to look crummy, not willing to open up and make things right with everybody. But when we do, I think some pretty amazing supernatural things can happen. So here's what I say. Not everybody is intended to go up on a stage and tell what happened. In fact, there are some places, some churches, I wrote about them in Toxic Faith, they're not too safe. And you start to share something about yourself that's kind of a normal way of sharing and being open about things, and everybody hears about it, and everybody holds it against you, and they judge you. So you have to be careful that when you do open up, it's safe. You also have to be willing that, like if you did it the way I did, and thousands of people are going to see it, some people are going to be judgmental, critical, and it's not going to be good when you hear about that. But that doesn't matter, because when you're opening up your heart and somebody's critical of that, guess what? They have just disqualified themselves from being in a whole, realistic, wonderful relationship with you. So I know that in secrecy, there is silence. And that's why that third key, we're opening up and we're confessing. But in this key of transformation, not only would I want to be open about what I've been through, I might have a new vision for my life. I might see some things that I never saw before. I might be the very person to do the very thing that I at one point thought was disgusting. First alcoholic I ever heard tell her story was Gertrude Bahana. And there was a movie about her life, The Late Liz. She was a Jewish aristocrat. She lived in the Waldorf Astoria. And she was arrogant. And she was an alcoholic. And one day, at the bottom of all reality, one day she falls on her knees and says, God, if you are real, show up and save me. She said Jesus showed up. And she became a Christian. She became a Jewish woman, became a Christian. And it wasn't long that she was living in a huge mansion, not downtown New York, in the Astoria, Waldorf Astoria anymore. And on the floor of this mansion, she would just let alcoholics come in, dry out, get sober. And I just never forget this. She said, so I no longer look down on people, but I had one more battle to fight. She said I needed to stop looking down on people that look down on people. Oh, isn't that? I just think that's so rich, because look at us. We do that all the time. I'm better than you because I can accept these people. So here's a woman, Jewish woman, accepts Christ, and literally rocked my world with her story. And I have an album, it's in my office, Uh, and I probably listened to that album as a little boy. I got it when I was 12. My parents heard her speak. I got to hear her speak before she died. And I bet I played that album 100 times and listened to her story. It's fantastic. So that's a transformation story. Her biggest problem, biggest sin, arrogance and alcoholism mixed together. She ends up helping other alcoholics, and she's a recovering alcoholic, and she's a Christian. Just doesn't get much better than that, if you ask me. So I would challenge you to ask yourself, what's the big secret I'm keeping? Or what is the thing that I went through that I've never done anything with? And then ask God, what would you have me do? Humbly ask God for direction and guidance so that all that pain isn't wasted. So that you are truly, truly sharing the comfort that you receive with somebody else. And God gets all the glory. Transformation. It's a wonderful, amazing reversal of evil into something good. You know, God has not given up on you. Don't give up on God. And if you think God is up there angry, bitter about what you did, God has a son seated right beside him, telling God, hey, this one accepted me, and God is rich in mercy. And you can have a pity party, you can live in shame, you can be full of regret, or you could work through all of that. And then you could start on a new mission to help other people. 1-800-NEW-LIFE is the number if you need some help working through all of that. Because our goal, you see, get through something, then get over it, and then get beyond it. And what I just talked to you about was the getting beyond part. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you tomorrow right here on Going Deeper. We're going to talk about the 7th key. Thank you for joining me for Going Deeper. I hope something I've said may have helped just a little bit. If you have a question you'd like me to answer or comment, just email me at stevesocial@newlife.com. I'll see you next time.
If you want to support Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn, be sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. And if you know someone who would benefit from this episode, be sure to share it with them. See you on the next Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn from New Life Ministries.